Hey, buddy.
Hey, Kelly.
How are you?
I'm blessed. I tell you, every
Yeah. What a week so far. I
yes,
mean,
what a
it's only
week.
Monday, but like the past week, what a week.
Yes, folks. We've been chatting. Um, you know,
We have to like like we Keith and I both have taken kind of a hiatus, a
yes,
small hiatus from social media. I mean, we are on when we have to be on, but then we've kind of put our phones down and walked away because it's just been such a difficult trying time for everybody, and the way the world is, and then the way our personal lives are, and then people spew all kinds of opinionated nonsense online, and it's been so trying. So I'm happy to be here with you tonight. um that's a very nice change of pace, actually getting to see your face. But
yeah.
I'll tell you, like I've put my phone down quite often lately, for sure.
So what a point. Oh so well. Oh so well. Hello, our sweethearts in the room already.
Aw, hi Robin and
Tashia and
Felicia.
Robin, well, sweethearts. I will tell you. So, as of recent, I've made a very much conscious decision with what I do for a living, folks. Is I don't know if many of you do know or don't know. So, I still work in quite the bit of a very stressful type career in the emergency care services, helping patients and getting them their care, kind of during these tough COVID times, and mitigating some difficulties and challenges that they have, but still make sure that their needs are being met, and then either address them as they stand, or of course get them to a higher level of care for sure. But the thing is this, folks, is the two people you see before you, uh my dear heart angel from above, ain't Kelly, uh still does things. She's very busy herself. I, as you know, still wear many hats of all the things I still do, and still come in many times. I just got in last night very late from the West Coast, doing some paranormal things I'm working on. Got in, came in, went to work, knew the show was tonight, still put my boots on, still came in. And something else I'm going to share with you right now, for the ones who don't know this. This coming March 3rd, this Thursday, is coming up on 5 years without my twin brother, Kevin, who I lost in 2017 to cancer. It's going to be a very challenging week, okay? Um, Yet I remain very kind, very vigilant, very to people, even though that is not always so often given back to me. So, what I will say is this, in summing this up, is this: think of the others around you during these times of what's going on right now in our world, okay? Look at what's going on. Think about the people that things are going on with. Everybody's got a story, and being kind is free. I realize everybody wants their voice. They want to have their own flag raised of what their accomplishments. I get it 100%, but please be kind in doing that. Just take a moment, be kind, give that back, and it's going to come back to you. That's what the whole basis of Talking Tech Paranormal was founded on, was giving the 95% of those of you out there in the paranormal community a voice on this show, to even have you as our guest and let you talk about your experiences. So we are recognizing you. We are talking about you. So remember that going forward. And we're going to have many more of you on this show. So be kind, give a hug, share the love back, just like we try to share it with you. And I'll tell you right now, if I haven't told you personally lately, hey, what you're doing is amazing. Okay, if your name starts with A or starts with Z, and all points in between, I'm telling you right now, thank you for what you're doing in the community. Thank you. Okay. So, with that being said, I wanted to make that very clear. I will tell you tonight, folks, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, we are bringing to the show someone so amazing, a friend of mine, a someone that I dearly respect, who is, I will go on very close record of saying, closest to center expert there is in the world of shadow figures. You also see him on the beautiful um show on the Travel Channel that many of you may see, talking about the Alaska Triangle. And I'm pretty blessed, and I do say blessed. I get to go with him this summer in July to Ireland and get to investigate together. And so I I feel very blessed, no doubt, folks. So many of you have asked me when are you going to have this person on the show? Well, the wait is over. The suspense, the excitement, ladies and gentlemen, please. And I guess he's ready, Kelly.
Mhm.
Please put your hands together, stomp on the ground, show some love for the one, the only Mr. Mike Ricksecker.
Just
I
in case
appreciate the
you
amazing
weren't
intro, Keith.
yeah, just in case you weren't hyped up today, Mike. Now you're
Right.
Mike's my buddy. I love Mike. I can tell him that to his face, behind his back, shake his hand. Mike
Mhm.
knows that I respect him worlds with his knowledge. I still say he's one of the most intelligent people in our field. If you have not got to read his books, meet him, watch his shows, listen to him, I promise I'm going to shut my big mouth tonight and let him talk about all things Mike Ricksecker. I'm going to just pull back out and let Mike have the mic.
No, I really appreciate that, Keith. And the respect is mutual. We got a chance to investigate that together at Vulture City, and just, all the equipment that you bring on, your expertise with that equipment is just amazing. Everybody needs to get an opportunity to be able to investigate with you. So
thank you so much. That's so kind,
absolutely.
Mike.
And Kelly, absolute pleasure to meet you as well.
It is a pleasure meeting you too. Thanks for joining us and taking some
absolutely.
time from your evening to come on with us. And
oh, sure. It's been. I'm sorry, I was kind of late joining in the studio there.
that's
Crazy day. I didn't even get a chance to shave. It's just one of those days.
That's okay. That's all right.
Yeah.
No
Look at all the
problem.
people already that have been
We want
asking
everybody to
about
come
you.
as they are, so that's good.
There we
That's
go.
good.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Aw. Well, Mike,
let's
can
hear
you
from
share a
Mike.
little? Yeah, can you share a little bit about yourself for those in the chat who are unfamiliar with you?
Sure, absolutely. Before we get into all that, though, I do want to put my heart out there to the people in Ukraine and everything that they're going through right now. It is just an absolute tragedy what they're having to suffer through. I have friends in Kharkiv. My daughter has friends in Kyiv, and I know others have friends and family out there in Ukraine right now. And so, my hearts and thoughts and prayers are with all those people right now. So,
Absolutely.
just wanted to get that out there. For myself, I mean, I've been involved some way, shape, or form with the paranormal for about 30 years, primarily as a writer since. I mean, I've been writing all my life, but my paranormal books have been out there since the first one was 2009. The first published book was 2004. But yeah, paranormal investigator. I guess shadow people are one of the main areas of study. Something I want to let you guys know. We'll do this as a premiere announcement here for your show, Keith and Kelly, because people know that I was out in LA back in January, and I had to be very cryptic as to what we were doing, what I was filming out there, and all of that. And really, it was a kind of last minute thing where they had revamped their entire episode that they had already shot. They scrapped the original, refilmed another one. So they flew me out there because they wanted to interview me for this particular episode. on Shadow People.
Hmm.
It is premiering this Friday on History Channel, Ancient Aliens, 9 p.m.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow. Congratulations. That's great.
Thank
Wow.
you. Thank you.
I cannot
So,
tell you.
One
I
of our
had a surge of like electricity go through me. Folks, that's amazing to get to have the man on the show to give something breaking. It's like
Aw.
breaking paranormal news, reporting live. And even Robin saying that already can't wait. So many
That's
people are
right.
like,
great,
when's he
great.
doing something
Yeah.
next?
Oh, that's
So yeah,
fantastic.
so you guys have the honor of breaking the news. There you go.
Thanks for sharing that with us. All
Absolutely.
right. That's awesome. Oh, very cool.
So folks, as you well know with Mike as well and his travels, you see these things in places he goes, and I've had some conversations with him about these portals. I do have a beautiful person in the chat room that I have talked about and love dearly, that I truly believe we were able to document a portal possibly opening in this building, that an apparition comes through, walks down, and then it closes behind them. I was so excited at the moment that I got this, and I looked and I thought, okay, I saw what I saw. It's amazing. I send it to Mike, and Mike is so wonderfully professional. He goes, "Wow, intriguing." He was like, "Wow, okay,
Hey, that's pretty interesting. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
interesting." That's like, because you watch it, you see it kind of morph, then you see this one leg, then another, almost like this boot, and then it kind of moves around, and then it comes down, and then this thing kind of morphs, and then it just kind of goes like it closes. And this beautiful person that we have in this room now has literally had times which has asked, uh, is there a portal in this building? And they say yes, and one of them says two, and she's like, where's the other one? And they go, the kitchen. They know of the one in the bedroom, but they tell this person the kitchen. And I mean, like, they know because the dogs are down there staring at this space where strange things continually like loop through this space. And I mean, I don't think they have a reason to lie. So my question, Mike, what's your thoughts on these portals, these earth located type portals, and how do you think the whole thing of them being formed or created, or what's your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that we covered a bit in the Alaska Triangle. I also covered a little bit in the Shadow Dimension docuseries, which people can watch for free on Tubi, by the way. And you know, with the portals, I mean, they are harnessing what we call vortex energy, which is that energy that's welling up from the Earth's magnetic core and spawns off a lot of different types of supernatural paranormal activity. So portals are one of those things, and some areas are more susceptible to it than others. You know, we talk about things like ley lines, which in a way that's kind of a misnomer of a term. It's kind of the layman's term for ley lines, because really what they are a telluric currents, the Earth's energy grid, and those currents are flowing through the Earth. And when we have two of those currents cross each other, which is a discontinuity or a conductivity discontinuity, that's where you get a lot of this crazy type of activity start to happen. And the ancient peoples knew about this. They were tapping into that energy, and that's why you have things like, you know, the stone circles, ancient sites of power, you know, old temples that are on top of these different nodes. And the ley line comes into play where they would all line up succinctly in a line. And you see them go around the globe like this, these fantastic lines of energy. And yeah, portals are one of those fascinating types of phenomena that happen at these locations. The energy kind of ebbs and flows. So, you know, it's not always constant 24/7. You'll have moments that are the activity is a lot more heightened than others, and so it almost kind of like pulsates, where you get like a big wave, and all of a sudden the portal opens up, and all this activity comes through, and then it starts to die down and close back up, only to open back up again at another point in time.
So
Oh, there you go.
when, yeah,
Thought he was
when
frozen. We thought you
no,
were frozen for a second.
I was frozen by the. I'm just sitting here. I'm just taking it all in, and I'm just reflecting. Um, there's a. I sent another picture to Mike, and at a location where it's outdoors, and I talked to Mike, and I'm probably going to make my noise I'm known for tonight again. And I asked Mike about this sound. And for the folks who haven't heard the sound, I'm going to do it right now. Because at the same time, I documented this picture of a very busy picture of like, I see two of them. There's one on the left, there's one on the right, and there's something on the left of the picture, there's something up to the right. And when it wasn't until I got with Tony Rothman and sent it to him and was like, "Oh my goodness, I tell me what you think." And I let him have his own thoughts, and then I said, "I'm going to send you a picture, and then when you see that picture, you could say, yes, I think that's what you might have what's in it, or it's not." Time went by, I sent it, and he goes, I think so. The sound was this strange universal type hum, and it literally went like this. And then it stopped during the time when I got the picture, and then after I had got that's the next pictures, there was nothing there, and then there was no noise any longer. So it was a nothing, then the picture and the noise, and then a nothing picture, and the noise was gone. It happened at the same time with John there at the same time. Now John is my flow of like, I don't think so, Keith. No, I don't. I'm sorry. He was like, did you hear that? I'm like, yes, I heard it. And then we went back and put the pictures up, and I say, look at this. And he goes, wow, just wow. What is so neat about where this is a location well known in the United States where lots of soldiers have died. And when asking at this location about what happened, I asked, how many souls are here? How many lost their lives? And the reply I got literally was thousands.
Wow.
And it was just to hear that was like, oh, and it was the bloodiest corner in a bottom of where they ran out of bullets, and they say, this is it. It's the last stand. And they went at it. And I think that's when that happened at that spot, and the location and the sound and then the picture that and is that they're possibly intelligently coming through, Mike, or are we possibly having some sort of residual this reflection moment that mirrors across in our dimension, and we see it, and then it just kind of shatters away and it's gone? What's your thoughts?
Well, you got an intelligent response there in answering your question of how many people. You got the answer of thousands. So I don't necessarily think it's residual. I don't think it's necessarily a playback. But I mean, that's something that could certainly happen at a location like that with so much energy and with so much loss of life. You get a lot of that type of residual energy. But getting an intelligent response like that, it almost makes you wonder if you didn't encounter maybe some sort of time slip where you got a glimpse into the past or around that point in time.
Mike, I have a question for you about the shadow people that you've encountered. Right now, I have a lot of clients and friends and paranormal teams with sensitives that I've been talking with, and so many people are noticing an increase in seeing these shadow people or seeing elemental type energies. And I wondered, if you could kind of tell those in the chat a little bit about the types of energy that you encounter And if you think there's any correlation between seeing more of them now than maybe before.
Well, I'll get that question a lot. Or there are more reports of shadow people now, or even other types of entities. And I think what's kind of happened here is, for one, there's just more people in the world these days, so there's naturally going to be a higher number of reports of these occurrences. But people are also more forthcoming these days than they were 20, 30, 50 years ago. There was a point in time where if you mentioned seeing shadows or hearing voices and what have you, that you were going to be put in a straitjacket and tossed away. One of the great things about advent of the internet, the television shows, and I know a lot of people have their misgivings about the television shows, but what it has done is allowed people to actually see, hey, other people are having these experiences too. I'm not crazy. I can relate to these things, and so people are being a lot more forthcoming with their stories these days. So I don't necessarily think that there's just suddenly shadow entities or ETs or ghosts, crawlers, whatever, are suddenly just descending upon the earth in massive waves as opposed to 50 years ago. I just think people, again, more people are able to report because there's more people in the world exponentially now, and people are more forthcoming. They're feeling more comfortable in telling their stories. All of that said, when it comes to, like, I do see more shadows than, say, apparitions. Other people see more apparitions than shadows, and I think that has to do with your own, personal vibration, your own personal resonance. So some people will see more of one than the other because that's kind of the wavelength they tune into. And as you interact with more and more of these different type of entities, like my first major interaction was with a shadow person. Kind of from there on out, I kept seeing more and more shadows. I do see apparitions on occasion, and I have seen black smoke, a black shadow morph into the apparition of a little girl, which was fascinating. But it really has to do with your own personal resonance and vibration, even the resonance and vibration of that entity that you were observing. So like that little girl that I mentioned, there were 5 of us that saw her that night, but we all saw her in a little bit of a different way, where I saw her fully formed from her head down to about her knees, and then she started to dissipate away. Others saw her like almost the exact opposite, like fully formed at the feet, and then on up as they got toward the head started to dissipate away. So, but that has to do with, again, our own personal resonance and vibration, and of course the entities as well, and how we're able to kind of sync up with that.
Sure. Yeah. And that's a great visual too. Actually, a dear friend of mine, Andy Andrews, in the chat, he has a question for you. We just had a similar experience at a location that we were investigating together. So he asks, have you encountered the shadow figure, the Hat Man? And if so, what are your thoughts?
That's a great question. It's kind of funny because I've experienced a lot of shadow entities throughout my life, and that is actually the one I have not. I've not actually seen the Hat Man. All kinds of other people have, and plenty of people have shared their stories. I've seen the fully formed humanoid figure. I've seen the crawler. I've seen mists, wisps, black clouds, all kinds of stuff like that. The Hat Man is the one I have not yet seen.
Good question, though, Andy. That was a good question.
Yeah, that's a good question.
And another dear friend of mine, Wes Coleman, he asks, do you think that the increase in these sightings can be contributed to people's enhanced emotional state these days with everything going on in the world? Do you think that plays into it at all?
Yeah, that's another great question. So in a time like this, you have a, I mean, our entire world, our entire universe vibrates. Everything in the world vibrates at different levels. And, right now everybody's feeling, the tumult in the world. You just, even people that weren't even watching the news, could feel a difference. Something's going on. And so, that gives you a heightened sense of awareness. So, in a time like this, when you have that heightened sense of awareness, you're going to pick up on a lot more things that are going on within the universe.
Right. Absolutely. Robin has another one of a sweet friend of ours from the show. She has another good question. What do you think about orbs and anomalies?
Another great question. So a lot of photos that people share with me are dust orbs. I can probably toss about 90 to 95% of them. And in the past, I've tried to give examples of here's a dust storm, here's that sort of thing. Here's a bug, or here's moisture in the air, and at some point in time, it's some people are just adamant, no, this dust is actually a spirit. But some are real. I will not discredit all of them, because some orbs actually are absolutely some sort of spirit, some sort, maybe it's an elemental. I've seen fairies, ones that came across as little tiny blue specks, little flickers that you could say were small orbs. I've seen a translucent yellow ball of light that danced all over the room that I was in at the time. There were, again, 3 of us with that one. So these things absolutely are real. I get particular with some of the different photos, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, Talisha and I, we were just talking about this too. Have you ever come across a shadow figure that refuses to leave the home?
Well, I mean, sometimes that'll happen, where if you don't want the shadow figure there, some shadows they might just be a former homeowner. They might just be a human spirit that can't fully manifest, and it's a little bit of a challenge to get them to walk out the door, because to them it's still their home. Others that might be a little bit more nefarious in nature that we've had to deal with. We've done cleansings before where we had to push them out. So it kind of depends on the case.
And that was similar to the way we had kind of talked about that too, and what vibrational level you're dealing with. As you mentioned, it could be a loved one. It could be someone who just still thinks it's their home historically, or it could become something completely different. So absolutely. Phil, he says, do you feel like you can tell if a shadow is male or female? I find when I come in contact with them and reference them, it seems to be by gender, and I don't know why. I just always have.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Somebody being able to tell, gender. And I think it has to do with that vibration, that personal resonance, that you can tell, okay, this is the resonance of a male or a female. I know a lot of mediums that they were able to walk into a room and they can absolutely tell, shadow or not, apparition or not, they just feel that energy in the room. I'm not quite as gifted. I can walk into I guess I'm going to take that back a little bit. I can walk into a room and say, okay, something's here. And it might take me some time to determine male or female, but other people are just like, they're right on that. Like, yeah, there's a young woman that's in the room right now. And to me, that's fascinating. You can get that with shadows as well. Some of these are certainly male or female, the human, human spirit shadows, of course, would be male or female. The ones that are interdimensional in nature, it might be extraterrestrials, a lot more difficult.
Oh, absolutely. I think too, it has to do with how spirit or what spirit wants to relay to you. Mm-hmm. So if they want to share with you a certain personal characteristic, the way you equate that to, it almost develops that psychic symbol. Phil, this is an aside for you, Phil, about how you determine that. So I think that's very, goes with your vibration as well, as you were saying, but it kind of develops that symbol, which I think is pretty interesting. We have lots of good questions for you tonight.
Yeah,
there's not just like, wow.
Man, look at there, Emma.
From Emma Jean, she says, what is Mike's favorite haunted location overseas?
Well, I'm hoping to experience some of those this July with Keith in Ireland. That'll be fantastic. Yeah, because there's so many haunted castles. We're going to Spike Island, which is like the Alcatraz of Ireland. We have a couple tickets left if anybody wants to join us. It's ancient mysteries of Ireland.
Chance of a lifetime.
Absolutely. So Kelly, you should come with us.
I know, that would be so fun, and I am Irish, so that would be so awesome.
Are you off, Kelly?
I don't know. Well, I should be. I'll check.
Maybe we'll look into it. We'll see what we can do.
Maybe we could just, fill the plane with all our paranormal family.
Let's see what maybe we'll talk. We'll figure something out.
That's right.
You said 2 tickets, Mike? We'll talk. I'll talk to you.
Yeah, and I think we actually have 4 now. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh.
So come
on.
So
let's try to make it 3.
That's right.
We'll talk.
So as far as favorite, tough call, because there's a lot of bucket list items yet that I want to get to that I haven't yet been, that might end up being a favorite. So But you know, it's tough to beat a lot of those locations there in Egypt. And and it's not even one of those where you necessarily say it's haunted, but you can feel that ancient energy that's there.
Yeah.
So even though some of those spirits might not be lingering about, but you know, the energy in the Great Pyramid of Giza, you know, is absolutely spiritual. There's something fascinating about that location, and I've heard stories from others, although I didn't see them, of you know all the lights go out and they see these light beams come through the walls, and I can absolutely imagine that is true, that would have happened there just from being in there and feeling that energy. It's fascinating.
Sure, sure. Now, Mike Flip asks, Eastern State always has produced the most shadow activity for him. So he was wondering if you'd been there and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have actually not yet been to Eastern State. I've been to a lot of other prisons, not Eastern State.
That place.
Yeah, there's a bucket list spot.
There
You
you
know, so you do know Mike, you know James and Needle, right? So one of
course.
my best friends. We went there and we're walking through, and it's darker than dark. I'm already walking through. I feel like that part in The Wizard of Oz. I do believe in spooks. I do believe in spooks. I do believe. And I'm with James. We're all been holding hands. We're walking along, and way up above us, up in the rafters of the cells, many floors above, and there's no one else up there. We hear help,
Wow.
and there's nobody, and we
Oh,
go,
gosh.
did you hear that? And we like, we we did the Fred Flintstone thing, you know? And we were
Nice.
looking at each other. I was pale. He goes, dude, there was only me and you in there. And I says, I know, and it was way above us. And then the prison guy that says, well, guys, so you know this was like a male prison a lot, right? He says, you do know that with males and what happens in prison, a lot of times the screams of help was another male person being, and Wes
Yeah.
knows, I mean, he's worked at penitentiaries, but it was the cries of help because of things happening that they didn't. And that's what he told us. And he says we get those a lot of the screams of them yelling help, and they hear them.
Yeah, I actually visited Eastern State with Flip, and it was so funny because as you walk through even the daytime tours, because they're not doing paranormal things, associated things anymore, but even the daytime tours, to walk through there, you're kind of on your own. It's a self-guided tour. And if you can get away from the mass groups of people and go into some of the places that aren't as occupied, I mean, just walking through, you'll hear, hey, hi, very clear right in your ear as you're walking by the cells. It's really intriguing. So definitely let us know if you come.
Emma's
Will
got,
do. Yeah, and the same thing is true of Ohio State Reformatory, which is kind of right down the road from me. I've been there several times, and yeah, you get that self-guided tour, and yeah, you can go off into some of those locations, and you start to hear some of those whispers and what have you. And I was on it was just a small group of us one night. It was middle of February a few years back, only 15 degrees out, and I had the entire eastern cell block to myself. And you want to talk about creepy, and it was frigid outside. It got super cold in there, and it's like, and there's something that comes by, and it's like, how in the world can this get even colder? But it did.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Oh, wow. That's on one of my bucket list places for the summer, actually. So
one of our listeners knows about being in a room and it being cold and then it getting colder and having to say, look, y'all got to give me a break tonight. Okay. I know you want to visit with me, but I need some time. And sure enough, after that on the camera, they're all like, okay. And they just start, you see them like bing, bing. It's like the part in the movie Ghost where the spirits walk through the walls. All these things leave and just go into the walls. This one location, I'm telling you, if you've ever thought, I really don't believe in light anomalies, there's stuff that happens. I've seen videos of these things that don't do what normal ones do. They normally come up and then they go right back along this way. And it's like, okay, that's going the opposite way. And that thing did not have wings on it. And it says
physics,
it says the name of the person when it goes by the camera where it goes and says this person's name. And I'm like, I didn't see a dirty room and I didn't see any wings on that. I'm not thinking so much. So, but so I see that Emma's got a pretty neat question on there too. Has Mike been
She
to
did.
Wave? Huh?
Yeah, she does. Yes, we're gonna post that one next though. Roland's
Oh,
question
okay.
is, have you used
I'm excited. I'm so
frequencies?
excited.
Yeah, you're getting ahead of me there, Keith. You're
I'm sorry.
excited by the questions too. I get it. Can you see that, Mike? As
Yeah,
talk
I
over
can see
top?
that. Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, not so much for cleansings, ITC communication. I'm more of an EVP guy, but I have no problem if people want to use ITC devices and what have you. 'Cause, some of the responses are interesting. Some of it are just, I think we're listening for something we want to hear, but some of the responses are still pretty interesting. Like, well, okay, that was actually an intelligent response. But again, I'm more of an EVP guy, so I guess I'm more old school that way.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Emma, now we're at your question. I apologize. I've been
Waverly.
trying to keep up. Everybody has such great questions. Yeah, have you been?
Waverly, that was one of those that, because they do have the the shadow entity that's supposed to be there, very infamous, and that was something that I was in the middle of starting to set up for my Shadow Dimension docuseries to go there and film at Waverly and cover that, and then COVID hit, so that fell through, and we ended up doing other things for the Shadow Dimension. So I was this close to Waverly, and I haven't yet been.
Let's see.
You guys are asking me about all the ones I haven't yet been to. So
God, I know. We're
Well, that's
gonna make it
good.
one
Now we're
day.
just meeting
We
in this
will.
for a tour for you. That's good.
It's future
That's
stuff.
exactly right. So what do you have coming up? Can you tell us a little bit about what's coming up besides
Sorry,
your
kinda
brand
broke up.
new? I mean, that's amazing news, but
Uh-oh.
you have your tour coming up in July, right? Your trip to Ireland.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You kind of broke up there on me. So you're asking me what I have coming
Oh,
up.
I apologize.
Okay, that's
I
all right.
apologize. Yeah. So aside from your Ancient Aliens that's coming up and your
Right.
Ireland trip in July, what else are you working on that you can share?
Yeah. We definitely have those things going on. So I have several conferences that I'm going to be at this year. Some other filming projects that I can't really talk about yet. But people that are interested in meeting me on the road, I have my schedule up at MikeRicksecker.com. We're in the process of producing Shadow Dimension season 2, so that is ongoing.
Oh, that's
Um,
wonderful.
yeah, just got the new audiobook out for the Alaska Triangle book, Alaska's Mysterious Triangle, and I just got done recording, in the process of editing. It should be up soon, the second edition audiobook for A Walk in the Shadows, which is all on shadow entities. We also have some other tours coming up. So it was just posted. I haven't really done a big push on it yet because we're still waiting for like some artwork and what have you. Going back to Egypt next February. So that is the Stargates of
Oh,
Ancient Egypt
wonderful.
tour. Yep.
Oh,
And then
That's
also,
fascinating. Wow.
yeah, and also next July, July 2023, the Alaska Triangle cruise. So that's going to be
I
fun.
think I
Oh
need to do the
my.
Alaska Triangle cruise.
As soon as I
Okay.
heard that, I went, "Oh, did you hear
Okay.
that?"
I was thinking the Egypt and I thought, ooh, the Alaska. Okay, Alaska Triangle, I'm in. So I need to find out. Hopefully we can find out the particulars on that so I can start sending big fat checks to that to get that secure.
Sounds good.
Oh man,
Oh,
folks, we're still going on the
that is
show. And
amazing.
if you've been listening to some of the things so far, Egypt, Ireland, Alaska Triangle, ladies and gentlemen, friends of all ages, colleagues, and the others, these are things that if you've ever thought a bucket list and you do whatever you need to do to get an opportunity to get to go on some of these, here's your chance. And I will tell you, what more exciting opportunity but to get to go with somebody like Mike Ricksecker. And here's the reason why I will find when you get a personal right there on the ship, on the investigation, in the room, you get to see the person behind the TV show, behind the radio, get to break bread with them. And I'll tell you the other fun things I've with breaking bread with Mike. It's such a beautiful thing to sit down and have a dinner, share a glass of wine, and just say, "Hey, thank you for being my friend." Because these are people that are in this field that get to do some of the things we may not get to do, but they do, and they share that love back to us to say, "Hey, it's beautiful things that are out there." So, we bring this show, we bring these guests, and so you getting a chance to maybe pick one of them and say, "Hey, this is the one that it would be." The nearest one coming up that for this season, of course, is the Ireland. This happened last year for us to get to see it, and I'm like, we're there. I mean, my last name is Bailey. John's is McGuire. So I mean, hello. But we looked at it, we picked it, we did it, and now we're knowing that Kelly's going to go because we're going to make that happen no matter what we have to do. I'm telling you, there were 4 tickets, now they're going to be 3,
Awesome.
and to have a good time. And the next year,
Oh,
2023, the Alaska Triangle, yes. So, uh, Sarah talks about the giant paranormal bucket list tour. I mean, you can be in. You can be in. You can be in. So these are things that I'm sure Mike will be able to post. You can go to his page. You see him on
I was going to
Facebook.
ask Mike, so how can people, aside from your
Yeah.
website, how can people follow along with all your adventures?
Yeah, well, like you said, I have absolutely the website. So I also have the Connected Universe Portal website, so connecteduniverseportal.com. And that is basically it's an online learning platform. There's some freebie blogs and things like that, but the classes, it's a weekly interactive class. We've got like all the sneak peek stuff. I have a weekly vlog that I do. There's a bunch of Egypt stuff in there, an American Southwest tour, all the Ireland stuff will end up going in there. So there's a lot of information in there, a boatload of articles. So check that out. But yeah, you can follow me online, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those locations, and shadowdimension.com has all the Shadow Dimension docuseries information.
Yeah, I will be very honest, and Mike knows that it was a Paracon many years ago that this 6'5", 280-pound Texan walks up and says, "Hi, I'm nice to meet you. I'm a big geek. I follow you. I think you're a great guy." And he's been kind enough to keep me around and say, "Hey, you're hey." But how much more cool is that? Speaking of cool, I've come across something that I think I wanted to bridge the gap on with something, and that is this. So with the show, with the Alaska and the Triangle, what are your thoughts when it comes down to these portals and Bigfoots and these many locations and the possibility existing that these these creatures are possibly escaping in and out of these portals? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean it's entirely possible. So if you have that energy that's kicking off these different portals, they could be traveling through the portal. I mean, maybe even unbeknownst to them, could be some sort of time slip that's being witnessed, or maybe these creatures are a little bit more intelligent than we're giving them credit for, and they've learned how to traverse, these different, whether it's timelines, wavelengths, whatever it may be, and they know how to move in and out of the different dimensions. It's entirely possible.
So one of the things is I was watching the
You
show.
faked me out again, Keith. I just
So
thought you were frozen. I'm going,
so I,
wait,
I was
what?
frozen
And then you
literally
started
listening to
talking.
Mike. But here's the neat thing is that I watched one of the Bigfoot shows, and the Indian actually says that it was him and his friend, and that they had a face-to-face encounter there with a Bigfoot. The creature actually tend to know that the Indians came in peace, and that the Bigfoot kind of spoke to them, and messages came from them to the uh to the Indians, and that it was as if they were asking a question but they weren't moving their lips, but the Bigfoot responded. And then they were like, how do we see you and how do we don't? And the Bigfoot stood there, and just like in the movie Predator, he did the disappearing act
Oh wow.
with
Okay.
that, how it just, he says, this is what I do. And he vanished. And he was this globulous, tall creature looking, but you could see through him. And then he says, but then I come back and I'm this. And they were like, okay, that's how they just suddenly disappear. People say, I was watching him and then he was gone. And that's how they say that they do that. So I tend to think the more that I follow that entire event with the Bigfoots is encrypted, is that I do believe that they're doing more watching of us than we are of them, because the amount of intelligence of how they've escaped this entire time is beyond me. It's like, how did they keep doing what they're doing? And that very well could be how they're doing that. So
Yeah, it's
amazing.
entirely possible. You know, they one of the things that you'll hear about on Ancient Aliens, or at least they asked me about it, and it seemed like they really wanted to go down that route. In my book, A Walk in the Shadows, and I'm talking about ETs and shadow entities. The idea that they could be using some sort of cloaking device that maybe they don't quite understand the physiology of our eyes, and to them maybe they believe that they are completely cloaked to us and we can't see them. But actually, because of the way light works and the way we take in light with our eyes, we may actually be seeing that comes off to us as a shadow, or some people report seeing like a shimmer man sort of thing. So that may be them trying to cloak themselves, and it doesn't quite come off the right way, and we still get a glimpse of them. So same thing could be true of Bigfoot. Yeah.
Oh, it's beyond
Yeah,
fascinating. That's what I'm
could be.
saying. I think that.
I wonder too, Mike, in all your experience with the different forms of shadow people that you've seen, have you noticed anything? I mean, I know vibrationally, as you talked, it has to do with your own personal vibration, and I believe in that too, with different shadow beings that I've seen. But I have found kind of certain things that are consistent for me with particular types of shadow beings, and I say beings because it's not just people, of course. But have you found anything that's kind of consistent for you in the way that you see them or notice them?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Very fast. I mean, because I've seen full, full, solid dark shadow that actually physically interacted with me. I've seen them very translucent. I've seen them as just like a little wisp. I've seen them in a vaporous cloud form. So I've seen them all different shapes and sizes. But the one consistent thing would be when they move, they are fast.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's interesting. The one I had, the most beautiful one, was down the street from you, Mike, and it was at Ohio State Reformatory.
mhm.
I had my FLIR camera, my very nice one, my big one, kind of like the firefighter size one, and so, but I was also doing a kind of double. I wanted to try an experiment with the camera and then an SLS, and when I did that, I wanted to be able to see if the temperature that these entities possibly emit, in other words, some sort of even if it's a blue globulous humanoid type figure, do they have some sort of a temperature, or are we possibly just seeing this actual form of it? And then in the SLS, if we also see this figure of this stick type entity in this very sterile type environment of no background or people, humans, and that it's a big open space where what we're seeing that could be projecting as a stick figure could only possibly be an entity. And at the time, when I started asking, like, oh, wow, I think I see you in my camera. I want to take your picture. And that was with the FLIR. I got the most beautiful, total, tar- dark, shadowless, not blue, but dark, with a head, a profound chest, and arms, and went down. and it kept doing this back and forth, like looking at me. And then I says, "Can you do what I do?" And said, "Watch this." And I did this. And then it took a minute, and he raised his hand and just stuck it there. And then he was like back and forth, and with a flare. And I was like, I asked somebody, "Are you getting this?" They were filming, so they're filming with a filming camera. They're filming, and then I says, "I'm gonna try to take your picture, please. I just want to do it to try to document this beautiful experience. And if you want to get your picture, let's take it." And the next thing I know, he goes away for a minute and comes back, and he's got a child with him.
Oh, wow.
He comes back with this little bitty humanoid, and everybody goes, "Oh, he's got a child." And I was like, I can see that. And of course, we ask, "Who is that?" And all we get is like, "Family."
Wow.
And then somebody asks, what happened, and he had says that the fever. All we got is the fever, and we were just, most of us were crying at this moment. It was beautiful, and we just were like, at that moment, we wanted to be respectful and say thank you.
Yeah.
It means so much to us. And then he was there, and then just was like, gone.
That makes
And,
sense for OSR. A lot of people don't know that for a time, the one wing of the building was a tuberculosis hospital.
correct.
Yeah.
I didn't even get to really find that out with some after research, going back with the fascination of what we had documented. And then it was that, and all of us even began to cry again, was like how beautiful that many of them, I guess, had brought some of their family because of that there, and that these children had been there and have died. And then it made you realize that there's that personal aspect of the paranormal that we tend to want to almost learn from, and get the knowledge of what we're pulling from it, but also constantly being respectful to the fact that this was a very much living person at one time. And for us, we just need to say thank you for giving you what you did, and we respect you, and we go in peace, and we step away and let them have that, because after all, at one time or another, we're all going to be potentially a shadow figure or a spirit or an anomaly or an orb or whatever. So we would only hope that somebody would also respect us as well. So
Absolutely.
Robert Hanna, and he goes, "Hey, Mike, I don't know if you know a Robert Hanna."
Yeah, I know Robert. Yeah.
Robert says hi. What's up, Robert? Robert, thank you for joining
Thanks,
us.
Robert. Appreciate it.
It means a lot. Sarah's been here. Roland's been a very happy guy in the show. Emma's been a sweetheart. All the people that come and join us on these shows,
And
when we have
they've
these
had,
beautiful, yes, that come and join us in these
yeah,
shows
and they've
and the
had
chats.
fantastic questions for you,
Tonight,
too.
I was going to say that the questions tonight, I'm sitting here just like, these are some of the best that they were. But the person you have on the show that could even remotely quickly and answer these is the one, the only Mr. Mike Ricksecker. So, folks, I will tell you, if you think you just enjoyed this show, go start looking at Mike's site. Go start doing some things and looking into some of his books. You want some answers about shadow figures and entities and so forth? Check out his books. Reach out to the man. Go meet him. You think the guy's a nice, off the cuff, handsome looking guy here on the show? Go meet him in person. He might even shave that, David.
Yeah, maybe.
But Mike, another thing cool about him is that Mike's even funnier in person. He's got the coolest little sense of humor that you just have to be listening to catch. And
Oh, geez.
he does. He's a very funny guy. I tell him, Mike, you're a funny guy. And he goes, he has a way with things. But beautiful person to have on the show. We more than enjoyed it. We've more than been blessed to have such a love and light person that's on the show. Again, I'll reach out and say this. If you want the opportunity to go out and go do one of these beautiful events that, I mean, some of us are going to get to do, you can go do them too. Check them out. Look at what you can do. If it's something coming up that's going to be this coming summer, or if it is next year, pick one that you want to do and make it live life now. Because I will tell you, like I spoke earlier about, we think so much about life. I wouldn't have known that, 5 years ago that I was going to be having the last conversation with my brother, and I did. So to get to go and say that you got to do some beautiful things with friends and colleagues and family in the life that we have now, go do them, because you can reflect back on those moments and say, I did a lot of things in life, but I'll never forget that time in Ireland when we got to investigate or break bread and how beautiful it was. And truly the times I've had with these two beautiful souls on this show here tonight, I can go back and say some of the very fun things that I got to do, that I consider myself one very blessed man.
And a great way to get amped up for that is to watch Mike's upcoming episode from his brand new news he shared with us earlier.
So, breaking news.
Mike, can you tell us
one more time? What is it, Mike?
One more time. Yeah, this Friday night, 9 p.m. on the History Channel, Ancient Aliens. We're going to be covering shadow people. So definitely check that out.
Friday plans made.
Awesome.
That's
9 p.m. Eastern, by the way.
Yep. Perfect. That's perfect. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for coming on and spending time with us. We know how busy you are, and we're very grateful you could hop on and answer so many fantastic questions. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and Keith Kelly, thank you so much for having me on.
Oh my gosh, it was wonderful. Do you have just a minute to wait backstage till we wrap?
Green room.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, so fun.
Okay.
I have a million questions for him. We'll have
even I was speechless. I was like, I just kept sitting there going, okay, there you go. Folks, we had the man. If put the word out, share, shout, throw a paper airplane, call your friends, text, tweet, call, Skype, do whatever you want to do. Let them know that we had a beautiful show with Mr. Mike Ricksecker on tonight, and reach out to the man. If you got questions, this guy's just nice enough to say, sure, no problem, and answer a question and spend the time. He's actually nice and cordial of a guy. So what a great, fun guy.
And make sure you follow him on all his social media too, because he gave you all of them.
All of them. So folks, before we go, Mike could not have said it any better. Let's have some love and thought in our hearts these days. Wow.
That's awesome, everybody. Well, I mean, we have, another great guest coming in 2 weeks, so we'll soon announce that person. But for everybody else, tonight, make the rest of the week a better one, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Right? Right,
2 weeks.
Keith? Right?
2 weeks. 2.
2. He says 2. Good night, everybody.